Revealed. My incredible journey of selling my home after my daughter-in-law's unexpected pregnancy. Tom sat on the creaky porch swing, the faint sizzling sound of burgers wafting through the air from neighbors' yards. It was the kind of day that should feel warm and full of promise, but a knot twisted in his stomach. At 65 he had built a life of steadfastness, a home brimming with laughter and memories. Now it felt like everything was crumbling before him. His beloved wife, Julie, sat inside, her heart heavy with thoughts of her job loss that felt more like a lead weight than a passing storm. Their family had always prided itself on self-reliance, but pride didn't pay the mortgage. It gnawed at him, the thought of selling their cherished home, the one where Mike had learned to ride a bike in the backyard, where every corner whispered echoes of joy. And then, amidst this emotional tempest, Sarah announced her pregnancy. He remembered the way she cradled her belly, eyes sparkling with hope. A future full of potential was blossoming. Yet, for Tom, it felt like a storm cloud eclipsing everything. Could they even afford to welcome a new life into their struggling world? The once exciting notion of becoming a grandparent turned bittersweet, tangled with fear. How could he support his son Mike, who was already grappling with the pressures of family and the looming responsibilities of fatherhood? "I don't want to let anyone down," Tom murmured under his breath. The weight of this news sat heavily in his chest, mingling with feelings of pride and failure. He could only see the walls of their home closing in, like the memories that surrounded him, a sacred refuge now at risk. He imagined Mike stepping into the role of father, filling the backyard with the same laughter he once shared. Yet, that heartwarming image was overshadowed by the ugly specter of financial despair. The familial love around him suddenly felt like chains rather than support. As the block party approached, an annual tradition that once brought joy, a wave of dread washed over him. The bright festivity of neighbors mingling and kids playing felt like a mockery of his situation. But amidst that turmoil, everything came to a head during an offhand conversation with Mike, who tried reaching out, eager to help, but it only made Tom's defenses rise. "Dad, we're family. Please let me in." A torrent of emotions erupted. Tom felt exposed, like the very foundation of everything he built was crumbling with that simple plea. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." But in that charged moment, staring into Mike's concerned eyes, something inside Tom cracked. Pride battled necessity, and as he lingered at this crossroads, he felt the fragile nature of what home truly meant. It was more than walls and roofs. It was connections, memories, love, and sometimes, letting others lift you when you couldn't stand alone. With the summer sun filtering down, laughter punctuating the air, Tom suddenly realized, perhaps the real strength lay not in standing alone but in allowing himself to be vulnerable, tethered to his family, not just by memories but by hope. As he stood at the brink of change, everything hung in the balance, not just for him, but for all the lives intertwined within those beloved walls. The moment hung in the air like a delicate thread waiting to snap. Tom felt his heart racing, the uncertainty crackling between him and Mike. It was as if the walls of the porch had ears, listening to the weight of the words hanging there, longing for release. "Dad," Mike spoke again, voice steady but tinged with concern. "You don't have to carry this alone. We're here for you." There it was, a lifeline offered in the most unexpected of times. Tom swallowed hard, pushing back the vulnerability that threatened to break free. But for the first time in what felt like ages, he wondered what it would be like to let that wall down. Julie stepped onto the porch, her eyes darting between the two men, sensing the tension. "Is everything okay?" she asked, a hint of worry lacing her voice. Tom searched her face, his heart filled with the familiar mix of love and despair. "Just a moment," he managed to reply, stalling for time. Stepping down from the swing, he took a deep breath and gazed at the block party spreading out beneath the oak trees, laughter echoing in the background like a distant memory. Could he really admit he was struggling? With a shaky exhale, he looked back at Mike. "I'm scared, son. Scared of failing you, of failing all of us." It didn't feel like a confession, more like unearthing a hidden truth that had festered too long. I thought I had things under control, but Mike stepped closer, his expression softening as if he could feel his father's weight pressing down on him. Dad, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to ask for help, he said firmly. You don't have to be the strongest one all the time. That doesn't make you less of a man. At that moment, the floodgates began to open. Tom felt warmth prick at the corners of his eyes, something unexpected bubbling up. But I don't know how to let go of this, he confessed, his voice catching in his throat. The helplessness washed over him like an unexpected wave, dragging him under for just a moment. Julie stepped forward, wrapping her arms around him, grounding him in her embrace. It was a simple act, yet it cracked the surface of the turmoil swirling inside. We're a team, she whispered, her voice soothing like the summer breeze. She pulled back slightly to look into his eyes, a glimmer of understanding shining through the weight of the moment. We can figure this out together. As Tom stood there held by both Julie and Mike, he felt the first real twinge of relief wash over him. The judgment he feared didn't come. Instead, love wrapped around him tightly, creating a haven where worries could be shared openly. But the conversation couldn't linger forever, as sounds from the party drew their attention. Kids played tag across the lawn while neighbors shared in laughter, sharing food and stories. A heavy cloud of worry slowly began to lift, yet Tom knew it wouldn't vanish entirely. The fears, the uncertainty, the decision to sell their home, it loomed over him like a constant shadow. Why don't we join everyone? Mike suggested, his tone brightening. It's a block party after all. We could use some fun. Tom hesitated at first, uncertainty still clinging like cobwebs. But then he glanced at Julie, and her encouraging nod gave him the push he needed. Yeah, let us go, he said, straightening up. As they made their way toward the festivities, Tom's heart beat with a mix of dread and anticipation. What awaited him out there? Would the laughter and distractions be enough to keep his worries at bay? Or would they magnify the reality he was desperately trying to escape? He couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest conversation lay ahead. And as they approached the crowd, he wondered how could he bring himself to face the impending change and still maintain the bond of family? Tomorrow was bound to bring challenges. But that night held the promise of connection and possibly even healing. Could it be enough to lift him out of despair? He clutched Julie's hand tighter as they stepped into the vibrant chaos ahead, feeling a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, he could start to rebuild. The party was alive with energy, colors swirling like a painter's palette across the yard. Families gathered beneath twinkling strings of lights, and laughter floated through the air, weaving a tapestry of joy that momentarily broke the hold of Tom's worries. As they stepped into the crowd, Tom's heart felt lighter, buoyed by the communal spirit surrounding him. Children dashed past, their tiny feet pounding against the grass, parents chatting animatedly, and friends exchanging warm hugs. It was a stark contrast to the weight on his shoulders. Look at them, Julie said, a smile breaking across her face as she watched their neighbor's kids playing. It's like they're in their own world. Tom turned to her, catching the glimmer in her eyes. For a moment, he lost himself in her smile, feeling the warmth of shared moments melt the edges of his anxiety. Yeah, they seem so carefree, he replied, wishing he could bottle that feeling and drink it down. They moved deeper into the crowd, enveloped by the playful chaos. Mike hung back for a moment to let them enjoy the scenery, his gaze scanning the faces among their neighbors. He caught sight of Mrs. Harrington flipping burgers on the grill, her laughter ringing out as Mr. Harrington attempted to juggle salad bowls. It felt good to see everyone engaged, to know the community was still vibrant despite the changes looming on the horizon. As Tom and Julie reached the refreshment table, the scent of barbecue wafted over them, mingling with the sweet notes of lemonade and fresh flowers. Tom picked up a plate, trying to focus on the moment, but the corners of his mind kept wandering back to their situation. Tom, Julie said softly, her hand resting on his arm. Have you thought any more about what we discussed? The question sent a ripple of unease through him. Could he voice the fear of selling their home, of leaving behind the memories that had shaped their lives? I don't know, he replied, fighting to capture his thoughts. I mean, it's hard to picture moving. This place, it's in our bones. Her eyes softened. I know it is. But it's not the house that makes a home, is it? It's us together, she said. He took a moment, letting the words settle. The truth lingered there like an uninvited guest. Yes, they had shared laughter, tears, and every moment in between here. But could they take those memories and create new ones elsewhere? Suddenly, an eruption of cheers broke through his thoughts. They turned just in time to see a group of kids racing toward the makeshift obstacle course. Tom laughed at their exuberance, a bubble of joy swelling in his chest. See, Julie nudged him playfully. Those kids have it figured out. They're fearless. Her voice dropped conspiratorially. Why can't we be a bit like them? Embrace the chaos? Tom chuckled, sensing her hope weaving a tighter bond around them. Maybe facing the uncertainty wasn't about losing what they had, but opening the door to what could be. All right, maybe we take one step at a time, he said, a cautious optimism creeping into his voice. Perfect, she replied, her smile radiant, lighting up the shadows that had threatened to tug at his heart. Yet, even as they laughed and enjoyed the fleeting happiness of the evening, Tom knew that the real conversation loomed like the darkening sky above. The decision to sell wasn't just a matter of moving. It was a reckoning with their past, their memories, and hopes for the future. As he watched Mike joining the kids, his heart swelled. They would have to face tomorrow together, and he could already feel the dread beginning to stir as he thought about their conversation. But tonight they had each other. So with a renewed sense of determination, he took Julie's hand once more and leaped into the joyful chaos. The laughter echoed around him, but would it be enough to drown out the reality they had to confront? As the night rolled on, he found himself wondering just how far they would have to go to face the truth, and if that leap into the unknown could truly lead to healing. The stars twinkled like tiny lanterns in the vast night sky, casting a soothing glow over the gathering. Tom and Julie lost themselves in the joyous chaos, but underneath his light-hearted facade, Tom felt the pull of responsibility looming. It was there like a shadow waiting for the right moment to creep back into his mind. "Dance with me," Julie suddenly exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. She pulled him toward the area where soft music hummed from a portable speaker. At first, he hesitated, the weight of the evening's discussion still hanging over him. "Come on, it's just for a few minutes," she coaxed, her laughter infectious. Tom glanced around, catching a glimpse of their neighbors twirling under the lights, laughter drifting like smoke in the air. Surrendering to her enthusiasm, he took her in his arms. The music picked up, buoying him for a moment. Their bodies swayed, the warmth of her presence spreading through him like a comforting blanket. "See, this is what it's all about," she beamed, pulling back enough to look into his eyes. "Maybe," he admitted, a hesitant smile forming on his lips. "But there's still let it go for tonight," she interrupted, squeezing his hand. "Just for a little while." So he closed his eyes, surrendered to the music, and let the sensation of her heartbeat against his guide him. This moment was there's no thoughts about selling or moving. Just the joy of being together, anchored by familiarity and love. But then the laughter of a nearby child broke through, reminding him that they couldn't stay in this bubble forever. His heart ached at the thought of what was coming. Would they really have to pack up their lives? With every twirl, memories danced in his mind: Halloween costumes in the living room, summer spent barbecuing in the backyard, the quiet nights where it was just them on the porch. It all seemed too intertwined with who they were. They finished the song, and as the last notes faded, Tom blurted out, "What if we lose all of this?" Julia's smile faltered. "We won't lose ourselves, Tom. We'll still be us no matter where we go." "Yeah, but things will change. How can I be sure? What if we regret it?" The fear bubbled up, too painful to ignore. "Tom," she said, her voice steady. "Change is hard, yes, but holding on to something just because it's comfortable isn't always the best choice. Sometimes we need to take risks." He swallowed hard, her words washing over him like cool water on burning skin. "What do you suggest, then? Let us start by just talking about it, laying it out. We can list the things we love about this place and what we hope to find in the next chapter," she replied. "What if I'm not ready?" he asked. "Then we wait. We don't have to rush." She smiled, and the warmth of her understanding made him want to melt. Across the yard, Mike joined the other adults, setting up a game for everyone to participate in. The kids hopped around him, eyes wide with anticipation. It was a joyful sight, an affirmation of community and life rolling forward. "See," Julie said, an eyebrow raised. "This is exactly what we've shared all these years. Our home has always been more than just four walls." He took a deep breath. Maybe Julie was right. As he watched Mike engage with the kids, something inside him began to shift. "Okay, let us talk," he finally said, the tension easing just a bit. She grinned and nudged him playfully. "After dessert. I want ice cream." Laughing at her excitement, he nodded. The soft texture of hope began to fill the space inside him. Maybe change wasn't the enemy. Maybe it was an opportunity waiting to unfold. But as Tom gripped her hand, a small sliver of doubt remained. In that moment of joy, he couldn't shake the feeling that the upcoming battle with their past would be tougher than he anticipated. As they stepped away from the dance area, ready to enjoy a scoop of ice cream, everything shifted. A shrill voice pierced the festivities, belonging to one of the children. "Where's my mommy?" Tom's heart dropped. As laughter began to turn into whispers of concern, his mind flashed with the larger implications of what could soon come crashing down. What were they truly preparing for? Another glance at Julie, and he wondered if they were ready for the uncertainties ahead, or if tonight's lightness would shatter under the weight of reality. Would they truly embrace the chaos? Or would they find themselves anchored by memories they could never let go of? The cheerful sounds of the gathering dimmed as the palpable tension swept through the crowd. Parents rushed to soothe their frantic children, searching for their little ones, all while Tom and Julie stood frozen for a moment, grappling with the sudden shift in their atmosphere. "What's going on?" Tom asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Julie's grip tightened around his hand, her brows knit with concern. "I don't know, but it doesn't sound good." As whispers swirled like leaves caught in the wind, Tom felt his heart quicken. The playful evening had transformed into something heavy. Faces shifted from joy to worry, and even the bright lights seemed to dim, embraced by a thickening uncertainty. "Over there." A mother's voice cut through the noise, pointing toward the driveway. Tom's gaze followed, and he saw a little girl, no older than 6, sitting on the grass, tears streaming down her freckled cheeks. A few adults were bending down to speak with her, trying to offer comfort, but the girl just shook her head repeatedly, her cries growing louder. Julie squeezed his hand again. "Should we check? She might just be scared." Tom nodded, moving with a surge of urgency. As they approached, the little girl looked up with wide, glassy eyes. "I can't find my mommy," she sobbed. He felt a sharp pang in his chest, the sound resonating deep within him. Memories of their own child, of every worry and moment of panic, flickered in his mind. "Hey there," he said gently, kneeling beside her. "What's your name?" "Lily," she sniffled, peering at him through her tears. "Lily, can you tell me what your mommy looks like?" With a shaky breath, she nodded and described her mom's long brown hair and the blue dress she'd worn that evening. Tom glanced around, eyes scanning the yard for any sign of the mother. "We'll find her," Julie reassured the girl, her voice soothing. Tom stood and turned to the crowd, raising his voice just above the murmur. "Is anyone missing a little girl? Her name's Lily and she can't find her mom." There was a ripple of confusion as parents exchanged anxious glances. A few started to call out names, scanning the darkness, but it was like navigating a sea without any light. Then, as if the universe answered his plea, a frantic woman rushed towards them, her expression a mixture of fear and desperation. "Lily!" she cried, dropping to her knees as she reached the girl. Lily bolted toward her, throwing her arms around her mother's neck and sobbing into her shoulder. Relief washed over Tom, but for a moment sadness lingered too. There was something about their reunion, an instinctual bond, an unspoken love that twisted his heart as the mother held her daughter close. The tension around them eased. Parents began to regain their laughter, families returning to their celebrations. But the weight of what just unfolded hung over Tom. Watching the joy radiate from them, he felt the chilling grip of change tighten around his soul again. "Let us go get that ice cream," Julie said softly, nudging him gently. Tom couldn't help it, the corner of his mouth turned up at the thought of that simple pleasure. "Yeah, good idea." As they walked away from the emotional whirlwind, Julie took a deep breath, and he felt the warmth of her presence spread through him like sunlight breaking through a dense fog. "You okay?" she asked, a flicker of concern crossing her features. "I'm fine," he assured her, but the shadow of possibility followed closely behind, whispering doubts into his ear. "What do you think happens next?" she asked, a hint of a smile playing on her lips that he paused, considering the question that leaned heavily in the air, blossoming with uncertainty. What if this feeling doesn't go away? Her expression softened. Maybe it's not meant to. Maybe it just shows us what we care about. His heart fluttered at her words, a fragile warmth fighting against the formidable fears inside him. As they approached the dessert table, Tom glanced back at all the families around them, laughter bubbling back into the air. The night was returning to its bright essence, but he couldn't shake the thought that perhaps something deeper was at stake. "Let us make a promise," he said suddenly, his voice carrying a weight he didn't fully understand. "No matter what happens, we always keep talking." "Always," Julie affirmed, her eyes steady. But as they stood together in that moment, Tom felt the roots of their past, intertwined with hope and fear, ready to be threatened by the looming uncertainties ahead. Just how could they navigate this new journey, their own incredible adventure waiting to unfold? With ice cream cones clutched in hand, they made their way through the throng of guests. The sweetness of the creamy treat felt like a small balm against the heaviness still lingering in Tom's chest. He glanced over at Julie, her smile brightening the night. She looked so carefree, yet he couldn't fully shake off the dread that had settled in his stomach. "Hey," he said, trying to push aside his internal storm. "Can we sit for a minute?" Julie nodded, her eyes searching for a suitable spot. They finally settled on a small, wooden bench slightly tucked away from the noise of the party. The light from the nearby lanterns cast a soft glow around them, making the atmosphere feel a little safer, a little more intimate. "Thanks for coming back with me," he said, resting his elbows on his knees, feeling the cool wood beneath him. "Of course. I know it's a lot seeing Lily upset like that," Julie replied, her voice gentle. "But it was good to help." Tom swirled his melting ice cream in circles, watching the colors blend. "I can't help but think, what if we blink and we're facing that same fear? What if our little girl is lost somewhere?" Julie shifted closer, her presence wrapping around him like a warm blanket. "It's natural to worry after something like this. But remember, fear can show us what we truly care about. We're stronger for it." His mind swirled, caught in the web of what-ifs. A part of him yearned for those uncomplicated moments of parenthood, where worries of the world felt miles away. He missed that easy laughter, sharing bedtime stories, cuddled under a blanket, where every worry drifted away. But now life seemed to be bringing fresh challenges right to their doorstep. "I just want to protect us," he finally confessed, looking into her eyes. "I want to be a good dad, and I'm scared I won't be enough." She placed a hand on his knee, her touch grounding him. "You've already been a great dad. It's okay to have these fears. But remember, we're in this together. Always." He felt a spark of reassurance from her words. "Yeah, you're right." A smile crawled onto his face, hesitant but genuine. He could see their future within the embrace of those simple assurances, yet the harsh realities were still close at hand. Just then, a commotion broke out not far from them. A cluster of children was yelling and laughing, pointing toward the big oak tree in the middle of the yard. As Tom turned his head, he noticed something darting between the branches, something darker and larger than a squirrel. Heart racing, curiosity piqued. He felt an instinctual pull. "What is happening over there?" Julie followed his gaze, frowning. "I don't know. Do you want to check it out? Maybe we should." He hesitated, the weight of his earlier thoughts creeping back. "Let us go see," she encouraged, her enthusiasm shining through. They stood, leaving their nearly finished ice cream behind, and walked toward the gathering crowd. The murmur of excitement intensified, brushing away the weight in Tom's heart as he was swept into the moment. Faces glimmered with anticipation that felt contagious. "Tom, look!" Julie exclaimed, pointing toward the tree. Tom's eyes widened as he processed what he saw. Something about the scene felt surreal. But before he could even grasp it, he took a step forward, his heart pounding in a rhythm that echoed the earlier uncertainty. What lay ahead seemed both frightening and wondrous, pulling him in as if the very universe was inviting him to embrace the chaos. With every step, he realized they were standing on the edge of something they didn't yet understand. As they drew closer, a sudden rush of realization struck him. What exactly were they about to uncover? He took a breath as they reached the edge of the crowd, ready to dive into whatever awaited them. But just then, a loud crack echoed from above, and all the heads turned skyward. The air thickened with anticipation, the sensation of something monumental hanging in the balance. "What was that?" Tom whispered, holding his breath as the crowd started to murmur nervously. Whatever came next might change everything. Tom's heart raced as he scanned the treetops, trying to anticipate the source of the noise. It was like time slowed. The laughter of the children faded into a mere whisper against the pounding of his pulse. He stood rigid, half expecting a branch or squirrel to rain down. But the crowd's exclamations had turned into anxious chatter, the thrill of curiosity slipping swiftly into unease. Maybe we should back away, Julie suggested, her brow furrowing. She had sensed the shift in the air, as had everyone else. No. I want to know what's happening, Tom said, half aware that his determination felt misplaced amidst the tension. Suddenly, a large figure emerged from the branches, a hefty raccoon, eyes glimmering like Tinkerbells in the light, tangled up in what looked like a string of colorful lights. It thrashed wildly, and the crowd erupted into a mix of laughter and applause. "Look at that little guy," someone shouted, drawing attention back to the spectacle. The tension broke, releasing a collective sigh of relief. The raccoon's antics transformed fear into a comedic moment, and in that fleeting instant, Tom glimpsed the joy that could exist despite the chaos of life. "Poor thing," Julie giggled, her earlier worry washed away. "I hope it gets down okay." Tom couldn't help but smile. The raccoon's plight mirrored his own anxieties caught up in something bigger. Overwhelmed but surrounded by people. Strengthened by Julie's presence, he felt a burgeoning clarity in the mess of his thoughts. As the raccoon continued its clumsy descent, an unexpected voice called out from the back of the crowd. "Hey, that reminds me. Did someone say they were giving away prizes after the raffle?" With that proclamation, the mood shifted again. The crowd turned into a sea of faces, intrigued by thoughts of possible wins. Children squealed in excitement, dragging their parents forward, while others clustered together, yapping about what they might score. Tom felt a swell of affection for the community gathered around them, a network of lives intertwined, all facing the uncertainties of life together. He and Julie exchanged a glance, her eyes sparkling with renewed enthusiasm. "Should we check it out?" she asked, nudging his side playfully. "Why not?" he replied, feeling the tug of the vibrant energy surrounding them. He could feel the heaviness in his chest start to lift with each step they took towards the growing crowd, driven by the promise of prizes, laughter, and shared joy as they navigated through the throngs. Working their way forward, Tom's thoughts lingered on that raccoon. Perhaps it was an omen, suggesting that even when caught in a jumble of unexpectedness, life could still weave in surreal twists worth smiling about. Tom felt the warmth of belonging settle around him, the comfort of being rooted in something larger. He exchanged easy banter with others, feeling the community embrace him like a warm hug. When they finally reached the front, they overheard the MC announcing the last items for the night. A spectacular basket brimming with treats and games caught Tom's eye. Just then he felt a gentle tug at his sleeve. "Daddy, look," Lily beamed, appearing out of nowhere, her cheeks smeared with the last remnants of chocolate ice cream. "What did you find, sweetheart?" he asked, kneeling to her level, the storm in him calming in her gaze. "This," she exclaimed, pulling a glittering ticket from her small hand. A rush of disbelief swept through him. She had entered the raffle. Maybe, just maybe, luck would be on their side tonight. The moment the tickets were drawn, the crowd held their breath. Tom's heart thumped wildly against his chest as the announcer started to call out numbers. And when the voice rang clear, a gasp escaped his lips. It was Lily's number. "That's us," he sputtered, disbelief transforming into exhilaration. "Yay!" Lily screamed, jumping up and down, her joy infectious. Tom wrapped his arms around her tightly, refusing to let go of that moment. It was a flicker of brightness amid life's unpredictable storms, a shared victory that connected them to the present. "I can't believe we won," Julie laughed, joining their embrace. But just as the excitement peaked, a shadow passed across Tom's mind, pulling at the corner of his happiness. Could this win be a simple stroke of luck? Or did it signal something deeper? Was it just a momentary high before the plunge back into the trials of parenthood? As they accepted the prize, the weight in his chest flickered back, mingled with hope. With their hands clasped around the basket, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What awaited them beyond this moment of joy? A question loomed like a gentle whisper. Would something unexpected come knocking next? The prize basket felt heavy in Tom's hands, not from its size but from the mixed emotions swelling within him. As laughter and cheers surrounded them, he couldn't help but feel the bittersweet pinch of reality creeping back in. Lily bounced at his side, her chocolate smile lighting up the evening, but Tom's thoughts drifted, hovering between the echo of applause and the weight of unspoken fears. "Let us go explore what's inside," she squealed, pulling him toward the edge of the crowd. "Yeah, let it." He forced a smile, though a nagging thought lingered. Did winning really mean anything in the grand scheme? They sank onto a nearby bench, while Julie settled beside them. Tom carefully opened the basket, revealing an array of colorful toys, treats, and game vouchers. Each item drew soft gasps from Lily, whose excitement radiated like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Look, Daddy! A sparkly unicorn!" Lily exclaimed, holding it up triumphantly. Her laughter wove itself around Tom's heart, but an image of darker days occasionally clouded his mind. "What do you think we should do with all this?" Julie asked, her curiosity dancing with amusement. Tom hesitated. "I don't know, maybe we could share it with friends?" He winced inwardly, thinking of the apologetic phone calls he might have to make once the thrill faded. "Great idea!" Julie beamed, her enthusiasm always a counterbalance to his worries. Lily jumped up, her tiny hands clapping. "We can have a party! Like the raccoon showed us a big surprise." It was moments like this, her innocent joy, that carried him. Yet with every giggle and squeal, fear loomed in the back of his mind like a distant thunderstorm. What if this prize shifted something deep inside him, pushing him closer to revelations he wasn't ready to confront? What if the expectation wrapped in this joy became a burden instead of a gift? "Hey, let us take a picture," Julie said, breaking through his thoughts. "This is a night to remember." Tom's heart surged at the idea. "Yes, let us capture this moment." He held out the basket, his family glimmering with joy beside it. He smiled at the camera as the click resonated like a heartbeat in that moment of happiness, suspending their little world where nothing felt wrong. But just as the laughter echoed through the park, the world outside their bubble surged back into focus. Tom's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, the screen lighting up with a text from his mother. "Can we talk about Lily's future? I worry about how things are changing." His face fell. That text echoed insecurity, a reminder that he couldn't escape reality forever. "Everything okay?" Julie asked, noticing the shift in his demeanor. "Yeah, just stuff," he replied, stowing the phone back in his pocket. "Just family, you know?" Lily, oblivious to the weight Tom carried, returned to the basket, finding a candy bar that brought another round of squeals. "Can we eat this now?" she asked, eyes wide with hope. "Of course. We can't let it go to waste," Tom said, handing her the treat. And as she bit into the chocolate, that familiar joy flickered again. It was the innocence and sweetness of the moment that reminded Tom he was not alone. Here in this park surrounded by laughter, there were still glimmers of hope and connection. Julie leaned closer, her whispers meant just for him. "I know it's hard sometimes, but we'll get through it together." Tom felt a flicker of strength in those words. Yet amidst the laughter and sweetness lingered the question of what lay ahead. Change was inevitable, but how would it shape their family? As the evening drew to a close, a soft breeze rustled through the park, carrying seeds of new beginnings. Tom watched as children played, unaware of the storms waiting for them with the coming dawn. What else could they win or lose, as they moved forth into the unknown? "Are you ready for what's next?" Tom wondered silently as he glanced at Julie and Lily, heart pounding with both excitement and fear. And with each burst of laughter around him, Tom realized that sometimes the biggest surprises didn't come from winning something at a raffle. Sometimes they came from embracing the twisty roads ahead. But where would those roads lead? The night had settled into a comforting blanket of darkness, but Tom's mind was anything but calm. He watched Lily jump around, her sparkly unicorn clutched tightly in her hands, her giggles weaving a sweet melody through the air. Each laugh from her felt like a balm, soothing the fraying edges of his worries, but the bliss only made the weight in his chest feel heavier. "Let us head home soon," Julie suggested, breaking into his thoughts. Her hand found his, a reassuring squeeze that grounded him amidst the swirling chaos inside. "Yeah, we should," he replied, forcing himself to take a deep breath. The warmth of their small family formed a stark contrast to the uncertainties nipping at his heels. As they began to walk toward the car, Lily skipped ahead, her voice trailing back to them. Can we have balloons at the party? She called, spinning around to face them. Her enthusiasm was unstoppable. Of course. Balloons, cake, and lots of fun. Julie replied, her voice bright with excitement. Tom managed a smile at the sight of his wife, her joy infectious. Wouldn't it be lovely to see her happiness radiate at the party if it ever came to that? Yet a nagging voice whispered in Tom's mind. Even the sweetest celebrations had to confront reality eventually. What if preparations stirred up old feelings, buried fears? As they climbed into the car, he felt a need to shift the focus. Why don't we talk about your party ideas on the way home? Huh? We could brainstorm some fun themes. Lily beamed, and Tom found his heart warming. They began discussing everything from amusement park themes to dinosaurs in a way that lifted the gloom of the weighty text from earlier. But as they turned onto their street, the familiar outline of their home emerged under the soft glow of the porch light. A sudden jolt of tension crashed against his resolve. This was the home where dreams blossomed, but it was also where shadows lingered. Tom, Julie said softly, interrupting his thoughts as they stepped inside. Is everything really okay? He hesitated. His usual mask felt heavy. Yeah, just thinking about some things, he said, sounding less certain than he wished. About what? Your mom's message? She asked. He could only nod. The conversation he dreaded loomed ahead, and he felt walloped by the conflicting pull of wanting to shield his family from the kind of worries he often faced alone. Maybe we should talk to her, Julie suggested, her perceptive nature always cutting through his doubts. It might help clear things up. Right, he replied, though the prospect made him uneasy. What if their conversation uncovered fears that had been scarred deeper than he ever admitted? Lily returned from the kitchen, fumbling with 2 soda cans. Look, Mommy. I found drinks. She beamed, trying to bring back the lightness of the evening. Great job, sweetheart. Julie encouraged, ruffling her hair. Tom watched in silent admiration. In that moment he realized the immense pleasure of family life. Yet, it was entangled with the fear of change, and the complexities that came with a growing daughter, and shifting responsibilities. As they settled on the couch, the TV flickering softly, the atmosphere felt thick with unspoken words. Tom's heart raced, uncertainty dancing in his mind like shadows on the wall. He loved his family fiercely, but did love mean he could protect them from everything? Then a sudden thought hit him. What if he could be brave enough to embrace the changes instead of fearing them? Lily, what would you wish for if you could have one special gift at your party? He asked, trying to unwrap the silence with her innocence. The little girl looked at him, considering. A big superhero cape, she decided, eyes bright with excitement. So we can all be superheroes. Her answer hung in the air like a promise. Maybe they were all capable of being heroes if only by facing the challenges that lay ahead. Tom shared a glance with Julie, and he felt a flicker of hope igniting. Yet even as he held onto that spark, another question loomed, one that carried the weight of tomorrow's revelations. Would they be able to embrace the uncertainty and still come out stronger on the other side? The evening lingered on, laughter mingling with worries, and Tom couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest journey awaited them just around the corner. What truths might come to light when they finally faced the conversation he dreaded most? The sunlight filtered softly through the kitchen window, casting a golden hue across the table where Tom and Julie sat. It felt like everything was moving in slow motion. The chatter of Lily playing in her room drifted in, punctuating the silence between the couple. This was the moment to break free from their fears. Tom, Julie started gently, her voice slicing through the thick air. We need to talk about your mom's message. It feels heavy in the room, doesn't it? He nodded, his heart a tumult of emotions. It does. I don't want to worry you or Lily with my anxieties. Her hand reached across the table, linking with his. But we're a family. Don't you see? Sharing the burden is how we stay stronger together. He took a deep breath, something inside him uncoiling as he recognized the truth in her words. Okay, you're right. It's time to be honest about everything. As he spoke, memories flickered like fireflies. Afternoons spent playing catch in the yard, family dinners that filled the house with laughter, deep conversations on the porch. Fear had chained him to the past, but maybe this talk would set him free. We've built so much here, he said, eyes glistening. But what if we lose it all? Julie squeezed his hand tighter, her resolve palpable. We won, We'll take our memories with us. Our history doesn't just vanish. Her voice steadied him like a warm embrace. You need to let your mom in. She loves you. She only wants to see you and Lily thriving. Talking about it feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, he admitted, his throat tightening. What if it leads us down a path we can't escape? Then we'll face that path together, Julie insisted, her tone firm yet soothing. Her spirit lifted him as he envisioned their family united, arms linked, confronting whatever emerged from the unknown. All right, let us do it. The words tasted sweet, like honey on his tongue, a promise, a commitment to fight together. As if on cue, a stampede of tiny feet pounded down the hall and into the kitchen. Lily burst through the door. Her face lit up with a mixture of innocence and fierce determination. Daddy! Mommy! Guess what? What, sweetie? Tom replied, grinning. I want to be a superhero at my party, but we need a mission. She stretched her arms wide as if ready to take flight. Then let us complete that mission, Julie declared, her eyes sparkling. How about you make a list of everything you want? Lily nodded vigorously, racing back to her room, pulling together crayons and papers. Tom chuckled at her infectious enthusiasm and found his heart swelling with gratitude. She captured the essence of hope, unrestrained and beautiful. There was no doubt they could forge a new path for their family, one where dreams battled fears. With Lily's laughter filling the air, Tom turned back to Julie. Maybe change isn't something to dread. What if it's an opportunity? A superhero-esque adventure? She raised an eyebrow, a smile creeping across her face. I'm listening. What if we turned this moving thing into a mission like her party? What if we listed everything we love about this home, then imagines what we want in the next one? Tom, that's brilliant. We can highlight what we cherish and keep it alive. They embarked on their planning session, a whirl of ideas sparking off one another. Memories poured out: barbecue dinners, family movie nights, lazy mornings on the porch. Every shared laugh felt like an anchor to hold them steady in the storm. Lily re-entered, holding a colorful paper. Look, my list. We need balloons and ice cream. And I want everyone to have capes. Perfect. We're all superheroes. And this party is going to be legendary. Tom crowed, pulling her into a bear hug. The air crackled with possibilities, a bright spark igniting in the darkness that once loomed over them. Julie joined in, enveloping them both, laughter ringing through the small kitchen like a joyful melody. They were a trio, their bonds woven tighter with every shared moment. Every idea spun from imagination. As Tom held them close, he realized he was no longer standing at a cliff's edge. He was at the gateway of something new. With his family fighting by his side, embracing uncertainty felt exhilarating rather than daunting. They were ready for a journey that could change everything. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting vibrant colors across the sky outside, a scene that mirrored the beautiful chaos within. Hand in hand, they were ready for whatever lay ahead. Buoyed by love and hope, they would face the future together, the unknown no longer an enemy but a canvas waiting to be painted with their dreams. This was their moment of transformation, the chapter in their lives reborn. The story of fear would be rewritten with courage, and the unraveling chaos would become a beautiful tapestry of connection. As Tom looked into the faces of the two loves of his life, he felt the flash of clarity. Change wasn't what one feared. It was what brought families closer, what opened doors to endless potential. Let us go make that party happen, he declared, and together, they stepped boldly into the future. Now there's something important. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your voice matters.